and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. My name is Sheila Mwanyega. Thank you so much for finding this channel. We are coming to you live-ish from my house. I'm telling you, the times have changed, but somehow we still keep working. So as always, when you find a video on this channel, when you stop by this channel, I always like to ask you to hit subscribe and hit notifications, because this channel is really about positivity. It's about knowledge. It's about growth. It's about living this life and loving it while you're here. And joining me for a conversation on COVID-19 with a special focus on the elderly is a woman who I now call friend. You can watch her in another episode in the coming season, that is season 8 of Sheila Lives Out Loud, as we talk about prioritizing care for the elderly amongst us. Dr. Tasneem Yamani, MD, with a certified specialty in geriatrics medicine. Good afternoon, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Sheila. How are you?
I am well. Given the circumstances, I think I'm still keeping my sanity, and I'm thankful for
Are you enjoying being confined?
I not so much the confinement, but I love knowing that I can wake up at 11 and it's fine. No one will judge me.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing we're all slowing down a little bit, aren't we?
Yes, we are. I think that hectic pace of life at some point it catches up, and in the long run, maybe there's certain wonderful things that will change for the better for all of us. How are you doing, Doc?
I'm good. As difficult as this time period is for us as a nation, as a people, as a human race, everywhere.
Yeah.
I think we have to focus on looking for the blessings, as you put it, looking for the positivity.
Right.
All this negative, I think it's good to try and find how to, overcome and cope with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're stuck with the situation as is. Our government is doing what they can to help. The doctors on the ground are all doing what they can.
Yeah.
But it still comes down to you and me as individuals doing the right thing for everybody to have a successful, completion or end to this story.
Right, because it's like a storm. We're wading into it. We will go through it, and we will come out better and stronger.
That's
on the other side. Now, Dr. your specialty is geriatric medicine. I mean, you've got the certifications for it. And I'm so glad that we already picked up this conversation on taking care of the elderly. And we will unpack that conversation in subsequent episodes of this season. But right now, COVID-19 preempts that chat. And it puts on the table this whole issue of the care that we have in place for our elderly. Our healthcare services are going to be put to the test like never before. So let's start with an understanding of why are the elderly so susceptible to COVID-19?
Okay, what we know about it, as you know, what we know about COVID-19 is very limited because it's something we're all dealing with for the first time.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that it has maybe word is it has an affinity for people who are immunocompromised.
Mm-hmm.
And age on its own is an immunocompromised state because your body's defense mechanism are lower. Age comes with comorbidities, which again keep you more immunosuppressed. So you're highly more vulnerable to a severe attack of COVID than somebody who may be in prime health in a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say they're not at risk. We are all at risk.
Right.
But it's the kind of symptoms and the severity of the illness is far worse in people with any kind of comorbidity, and of course people above the age of 60.
Right.
And that lies in the space that I love the most, the geriatric people.
Yeah.
They're more vulnerable to this, and that's why I think you keep hearing it. If you're over 60, please stay at home.
Mm.
But we also have to remember, for a 60-year-old who has been up and about active, that one statement is probably like a life sentence right now.
Yes, it is.
Stay at home is depriving them of everything that is keeping them going to age as well as they possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So if we keep that in focus, I'm not saying tell them to come out. I still hold the value. Stay at home. It is the safest thing for you.
You know, we are sailing into the Easter holidays, and Easter is a very big family holiday. You'll find a lot of families ordinarily would travel up country so that they can celebrate Easter with Shosho, with Guka, with Babu, with Nyanya. But this is going to be a very special kind of Easter for everyone around the world. We're going to have to social distance and stay away from these wonderful people that we love. And that's not easy. I want us to talk about the psychological effect this COVID 19 is having on the elderly.
Okay, I mean, as we know, the elder population or the older population always are very adamant in their way of life. And for them, something this difficult is very hard to comprehend. And in trying to do what's best with them, we will also forget that they need to be, identified for all the things that might be
Yeah.
something that would cause them a higher risk in the long run. I
Mhm.
mean, you don't want a healthy person staying at home with no COVID, but in the long run turning depressed and being miserable, which they may not be able to come out of. So
Yeah.
at this point, this is the best advice as a medical perspective team. That yes, as
Mhm.
much as you're keeping them at home and you're doing your social distance, I'm sure a lot of older persons live with family, whether it's in Nairobi or in the rural areas. They have some kind of family support around them.
Mhm.
That interaction needs to be done with safety in mind. Ensure if you're sick as a person with even a mild flu or a mild illness,
Yeah.
don't visit. Do video calls. Give them the technology, let them learn, and I promise you they are capable, very capable of learning how to use
Mhm.
it, and give them that importance and make them feel the least distance with the distance that is there. I
Okay.
mean, in this aspect, it's important to kind of pick out on the early signs or the kind of
Mm.
signs that you pick out in depression.
Yeah.
Stop saying they're being difficult and they are being stubborn. It may feel that way for you because you're telling them just sit at home and they don't want to listen. So it's
Yeah.
very easy for you and I to label them as stubborn because they don't want to listen. But
Mm.
it's not stubbornness. That stubbornness, that anger, sudden anger, change in behavior, changing sleep habits, changing eating habits,
Mhm.
changing activity level in their homes are all signs that this person may not be coping. And
Right.
if you do come across somebody who's not coping, even if they're older than you, an older person, it
Mm.
is okay to reach out to your medical doctor over the phone for help.
Yeah.
We're here, we will reach out, we will make phone calls, we will walk you through the journey. Because it
Okay.
is a journey, a difficult one, which is what we all need to understand. And if it's difficult for you and I, for them it's even more difficult.
Right.
Because I keep saying, for the older person to be healthy, social interaction is a very important aspect of their
Extremely.
psychological well-being. And
Mm.
at this point, unfortunately, we're in a place where we have to stop social interaction.
Mm.
They thrive on meeting the family, as you said. Easter is something they're probably looking forward to because it's the one second or 1 or 2 times in the year we are all going to
Yeah.
get
It's
together as
Easter or
family.
Christmas. Exactly.
Or Christmas.
Mm.
And if those two are not happening, we are already at a place where we are going to find a reason or have a reason to be very sad. So
Mm.
the best way you can do is increase on the phone call, increase on the Zoom, create a Zoom meeting for the family.
Yeah.
Find a way of making a celebration even though you're physically not able to be there. And if you all live together, find something that will make them excited. Cook with them, paint with them,
Yeah.
read books with them, play board games with them. That way, your grandchildren and grandparents are
They're
interacting. Because
interacting with
even
each
for us on
other.
the other spectrum, the children are also finding this a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And for them to understand what this is difficult. So
Mm.
use this time to create stronger bonds. Because as we know it, we're all stuck within the four walls. And even if we are still not stuck, we should be stuck within our four walls because it is in the best interest for all of us
All of
as a
us in
country,
the
as a
long run.
global community.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more we stay indoors, the faster this curve will flatten.
Yes, and that for sure we're all actively engaging and working on making sure that it happens because I'm reading stories about people on quarantine and it's not a fun place to be. So the sooner we can
No.
get this done, the better. And thank you so much for encouraging, parents, people with children in their households to please check on Shosho, give these kids the phones to get in touch with their elderly, to call an uncle, call an aunt. I'm just thinking now of a lot of elderly who live alone in the city. They're not necessarily up country. Maybe their children are across over the seas, or maybe some of them are, they don't have very wide family networks, but they find themselves at home alone. What can we do for these groups of people?
The people who are alone, I think the best way we can reach out to them is create a hotline space. And with the hotline space, have a way of reaching out to them, with a database. I know a lot of communities are doing that. They
Yeah.
have put together their database of their community older persons,
Yeah.
and they've created a group, a task force
Mhm.
that makes calls to them just to find out on their well-being, find out if they need anything, if they need any door-to-door service, because not everybody is tech savvy,
Yeah.
especially on online ordering. And you really don't want your 80-year-old or your 60-year-old who was fine being
Mm.
in the supermarket unless absolutely, life or death. So,
Yeah.
try and do their ordering for them. Try and, create that. And this reaches out to all community members because it's the easiest way we can. As we know, the government is really overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
we can support our government. And the best way to support the government is by using our community groups to create a database for the older person, make phone calls as younger people to identify their needs, identify their situations, have a 5-minute conversation if they need, their daily day-to-day
Medication even.
medication,
Yeah.
their food stuff, if they need a meal. We can organize through, we have so many apps that do online. Most supermarkets have gone online.
Yeah.
So the best way I can think at this point is a community outreach for
Mm.
their community members. That
Okay.
is the church groups, individual communities.
Right.
It would be one of the best ways to reach out.
Okay. This is really a very short conversation because, I think it's really important for all of us to play our part, no matter how big, no matter how small. We all have a responsibility to each other because we stand together. We don't want to lose people when there's something that we could have done in our own individual capacities to make a difference. And as we get ready to close, I think I have one or two more questions for you. And the penultimate question before we wind up has got to deal with treatment for the elderly, because we see what the situation in Italy and Spain, and we hear what those numbers are. And we know that it's better to stay apart, but there's some where the elderly are already here. We're all part of one big family unit. There's some families that are already living with their elderly amongst them. It's too late to try and send them to Shago because they're here and they're not
Yes.
even used to being sent to Shago. So, what do we do with the elderly amongst us? Because in terms of um, in terms of quarantine and self isolation, they still want to go outside for a walk. They still want to do a few things that they feel they're entitled to, and rightly so. But the circumstances have changed. So how do we deal with our parents living with us?
If we're living with them, the best thing is if you are in a gated community,
Yeah.
right? We are advocating for masks. They're not very protective, but they're pro. So if you are with an elderly and they need to take a small walk, try
Mm.
and find a time that is not busy, ensuring they're not in contact with anyone. They don't come. It's not a matter of going out to meet the neighbor. It's a matter of just taking a fresh of breath air. Go out, take a 5-minute walk, refresh your mind, and come back in. If
Yeah.
you're living in a compound that's your own, that's a lot easier. In a small gated community, it's not so difficult. In a larger gated community, it becomes a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So it's okay to, take a 5-minute walk, especially in a time when there won't be too many people out and about early evening before curfew hours,
Mhm.
just to, keep that sanity.
Okay.
But if you're in the house, the easiest way to do this is there's a lot of online videos, even for older persons with exercise. There is yoga, there
Mm.
is activities for older persons. Please look them up. Just the way I tell you, I keep saying this over and over. The way we encourage our children with all the online learning, go
Same
onto the
thing
online
with parents.
for
Yeah.
the and now just look for the older person in it. There's a lot of yoga activities, there's a lot of exercise, and they can do that within the confines of the house without needing to go out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grow a plant, grow a vegetable garden for
And
them
they're
with a
really
balcony
good at this. Yeah. They're
and
really
they
good
love
at
it,
it.
and this
Yeah.
keeps their mind occupied. It'll give them something to do.
Mm.
Let them do the cooking for you if they've not done it in a long time, because it will give them something to do, give them some responsibility in the house that they were not having before, which makes them feel included.
Mm.
Which And don't push them to do what they don't want to.
If they don't, just
Listen to
keep
them,
it. Yeah.
please.
Mm.
And one thing I want to appeal is listen to them. If they say, I don't feel like doing it, don't enforce your thought onto them. Hear them out and then try and explain it in a way that they can understand,
Right.
where they feel they are being heard and they're not being forced to do something out of their will,
Right.
where they feel like, now because I'm old, I don't even have a right to say what I want. Don't take their rights away.
Yeah.
But at some point, we have to be firm because they like their way of life. But if we do it gently, they are very reasonable, they're very understanding,
Yeah,
and
and
they're
they
very
also
open
want to
to
stay
changing.
alive as well and enjoy
Yes,
their own lives
and
and
enjoy and give them a reason to enjoy. I mean, quarantine is hard for everybody, curfews are hard on everyone. So we
yeah.
make the best of what we have. So the way you find things to do for you, you find things to do for them.
Them. In conclusion, it's wonderful you've talked about the kitchen, and I'd like to know, do you have any special recommendations, even as we all try to adjust our diets for these times, because we understand, staying healthy is paramount. So there's a special focus, emphasis, and just try and eat healthy, try and get some exercise happening. When it comes to the elderly, any tips that you want to share in terms of diet, because we talked about
Of course,
mental,
hydration is key.
talk about diet.
Hydration is key, of course. Keep them well hydrated. I mean, the weather is changing really drastically. It's really hot right now. So
Yeah.
even though we are indoors, hydration is key. A lot of fresh fruits, vegetables, of course. Keep in mind the diabetic diets and things
Yeah.
like that. A lot of good, healthy, raw foods is the best way to go. So when I say raw foods, I don't mean eat your lentils raw, but you get what I mean. I mean, do less oil, the usual healthy diet, but a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, salads, carrots, cucumbers,
Right, right.
A lot of water is really key.
Fantastic.
And then on the medication side, it's really important that I think I know you want to conclude, but I think I should highlight this.
Yes, go ahead.
Please ensure you have adequate stock of their chronic medications. You don't want to run out of stock in a point where you might not be able to get a delivery in good time.
Yeah.
Always make your orders way in time. If you know you have a week supply, make the orders. So because everyone is stretched right now.
Yeah.
So everyone's trying really hard to meet deadlines, to try and get you your things on time, and they're overwhelmed as well.
Yeah.
With all that. So make sure your medications. If an older person falls sick, please, before you take them to the hospital, try and see if you can possibly get a doctor to come visit you at home first,
Yeah.
unless, of course, it's dire emergency. The further an older person stays away from the hospitals right now is in their best interests.
Right.
And smaller things can be sorted out over teleconsultation as much as possible. If you have your doctors that do home visits, please encourage that.
Yeah.
And let them have their remember, they also need their regular monitoring and routine checkups. Don't neglect them, because apart from COVID, we are dealing with normal life.
Yeah.
There is normal medical
still
conditions that cannot be ignored. And I know we are all so focused on COVID, but let's remember other illnesses still exist and they're still going to affect all of us. So don't neglect those in trying to quarantine yourself.
Yeah.
Because you could lead to a complication that didn't need to get
And
complicated.
didn't need to have been there in the first place. Thank you so much, Dr. Tasneem Yamani. You are an absolute gem. I cannot wait to share our conversation on prioritizing healthcare for the elderly in the next coming weeks. We just hope we ride this storm as quickly as possible so we can unpack those conversations. I know you're working very seriously on taking care of the elderly, and so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Wait, Daktari. Don't worry, I will be keeping you in my thoughts and my prayers together with all the rest of your colleagues. So thank you. The door is open when you need to chat again about something, anything, whatever. You know how to reach me. But a big thank you to you for watching and catching up with me on this channel. As always, please click subscribe, hit notifications. In this season, please follow instructions. COVID-19 is not a joke. And while we have talked about, healthcare for the elderly, remember COVID-19 is just out there. It can affect you as a young person. It can affect you as a middle-aged person. Just follow the instructions that have been given and stay safe. Until our next episode, live out loud in all that you do. Bye for now. Bye. Doctor, bye.